The Lady Be Good was built at the Consolidated Aircraft Corporation plant in San Diego, California. It was assigned its first crew in Topeka, Kansas around February 18, 1943. This particular crew had been having bad luck with other B-24s, so they decided to name this brand new pink one Lady Be Good. They left Topeka, Kansas March 3rd and finally arrived in Suluq, Libya on March 23rd, then reported for duty with the 376th Bomb Group. On March 25th, the pilot, Lieutenant Rose, took his crew up to familiarize them with the area. Rose also went along as a co-pilot on one bombing mission before he could go on his own mission. Their first raid as a crew of the Lady Be Good was scheduled for April 2nd, 1943. However, Lady Be Good did not check out properly for the mission due to a small radio issue, so the crew was told to fly the mission in a beat-up old B-24 that was getting ready to be used for spare parts. Their target was the harbor in Palermo, Italy. However, they never made it. They developed engine trouble, dropped their bombs in the Mediterranean, and landed on the island of Malta for repairs. Late on March 3rd, the plane was repaired and they returned April 5th. Upon returning, they learned another crew took Lady Be Good on a mission to Naples. They never saw the crew or the plane again. That new crew was First Lieutenant William J. Hatton, pilot, Second Lieutenant Robert F. Toner, co-pilot, Second Lieutenant D.P. Hayes, navigator, Second Lieutenant John S. Warovka, bombardier, Technical Sergeant Harold J. Ripslinger, flight engineer, Technical Sergeant Robert E. Lamotte, radio operator, Staff Sergeant Guy E. Shelley, gunner, Staff Sergeant Vernon L. Moore, gunner, and Staff Sergeant Samuel E. Adams, gunner. On November 9, 1958, Ronald McLean, a geologist for British Petroleum, was looking out the window of the aircraft he was in while flying over the Libyan desert. He was searching for rock strata that indicated underground oil. While looking out the window, he saw an airplane on the ground in the sand in the middle of nowhere. It was 386 miles directly south of Tobruk, Libya. It was also unusual for planes to fly over the southeast Libyan desert. They circled for a better look and realized it was an American World War II heavy bomber. They marked the approximate location on their map before heading back to Kufra Oasis. 4 months later, in February 1959, 2 geologists and a surveyor arrived to chart the area marked by Ronald McLean. There was zero vegetation further than the eye could see. Daytime temperatures were between 100 and 120 degrees Fahrenheit in early spring, while nighttime temperatures were nearly freezing. They also noticed numerous dead and mummified birds dotting the sea of sand in all directions. After a while, they found the airplane. Other than the fuselage being broken in the middle and one of the engines being detached from the wing, the plane had little damage. It appeared the flight crew may have belly landed in the sand with a bit of a hard landing. Inside the plane, ammunition still hung in the feed belts ready for use. The crew's logbooks were still there. Supplies necessary to aid in surviving the harsh desert conditions were still on board. However, there was zero evidence that the plane had been touched after landing. It was as if the plane landed without a crew, like a ghost plane. Before leaving, they wrote down the serial number, 41-24301. After receiving this information, the Pentagon decided to do an on-the-spot investigation because this particular B-24 Liberator, with its 9 crew members, had been missing since April 4, 1943. On May 26, 1959, a small search crew arrived to examine the wreck. They did not stay long. They came back again in mid-July 1959 and set up a base camp just north of the Lady Be Good. They found Italian military vehicle tracks heading north-northwest and assumed the crew would follow these tracks. After a couple miles, they found a pair of sun-dried peeling U.S. aircrew high-altitude boots filled with small rocks with the toes together making an arrow pointing north. They decided to not head north but to continue to follow the tire tracks heading north-northwest. The next day, they found an arrow made from strips of parachute weighted down with small rocks pointing north-northwest. A little further up the trail from the arrow, they found 6 discarded Mae West life preservers. At least one of the 2 carbon dioxide containers had been punctured on each preserver, meaning the crew believed they were over water when they bailed out. From where the crew started walking to the last of 7 arrow markers found was about 40 miles. After finding nothing else, the search was ended. In February of 1960, an oil exploration party found 5 bodies beyond what was believed to be a human's ability to walk in these desert conditions. They were 65 miles north-northwest from the Lady Be Good. These 5 bodies were Lieutenant William J. Hatton, the pilot, Second Lieutenant Robert F. Toner, the co-pilot, Second Lieutenant D.P. Hayes, the navigator, Sergeant Robert E. Lamotte, the radio operator, and Staff Sergeant Samuel R. Adams, gunner. Lieutenant Robert Toner's diary was found with them. The entries in his diary said, Sunday, April 4th, 1943. Naples, 28 planes, things pretty well mixed up, got lost returning, out of gas, jumped, landed in desert at 2 in morning, no one badly hurt, can't find John, all others present. The next day's entry, Monday the 5th. Start walking northwest, still no John, a few rations, half canteen of water, 1 cap full per day. Sun fairly warm, good breeze from northwest, night very cold, no sleep, rested and walked. The next entry, Tuesday the 6th, rested at 11:30, sun very warm, no breeze, spent PM in hell, no planes, etc. Rested until 5 p.m., walked and rested all night, 15-minute on, 5 off. The next entry was Wednesday, April 7th, 1943. Same routine, everyone getting weak, can't get very far, prayers all the time, again, PM very warm, hell, can't sleep, everyone sore from ground. The next entry was Thursday the 8th, hit sand dunes. Very miserable, good wind, but continuous blowing of sand. Everybody now very weak. Thought Sam and Moore were all done. Lamotte eyes are gone. Everyone else's eyes are bad. Still going northwest. His next entry, Friday the 9th, Shelley, Rip, Moore separate and try to go for help. Rest of us all very weak. Eyes bad. Not any travel. All want to die. Still very little water. Nights are about 35 degrees. Good north wind. No shelter. 1 parachute left. His next entry was Saturday, April 10th, 1943. Still having prayer meetings for help. No signs of anything. A couple of birds. Good wind from north. Really weak now. Can't walk. Pains all over. Still want to die. Nights very cold. No sleep. His next entry, Sunday the 11th, still waiting for help, still praying, eyes bad, lost all our weight, aching all over, could make it if we had water, just enough left to put our tongue to, have hope for help very soon, no rest, still same place. And his last entry, Monday the 12th, no help yet, very cold night. From this discovery, the Air Force and Army conducted a joint search for the remaining crew members. However, nothing was found. About the time the search seemed useless, a British Petroleum Company team that found the 5 bodies had found 2 more bodies over 20 miles into the sand dunes beyond the 5 bodies found. The first was Sergeant Ripslinger, who was 21 miles beyond the 5, and 6 miles beyond him was waist gunner Sergeant Shelley. From bailout, Shelley had walked about 91 miles through extremely hot days and near freezing nights with no food and minuscule amounts of water. And like Toner, Ripslinger also had a diary with him. This is what he wrote. Sunday, April 4th. Mission to Naples, Italy. Take off 3:10 and drop bombs at 10. Lost coming back. Bailed out at 2:10 a.m. on desert. His next entry, Monday. All but Warovka met this a.m., waited a while, and started walking. Had half sandwich and piece of candy and cap of water in last 36 hours. His next entry, Tuesday, April 6th. Started out early walking and resting. It's not sundown and still going. 1 teaspoon of water today. The rest of the boys are doing fine. His next entry was Wednesday, April 7th. Started early a.m. and walked till about near spent. Terrible hot afternoon. Started again at 6 p.m. and walked all night. 1 spoonful of water is all. His next entry was Thursday, April 8th. Tired all out. We can hardly walk. Our 4th day out. A few drops of water each. Can't hold out much longer without aid. Pray. His next entry was Friday, April 9th. 5th day out. We all thought we're gone. All wanted to die during noon. It was so hot. Morn, night, okay. His next entry was Saturday, April 10th. Walked all day and night. Suggested Guy, Moore, and I make out alone. And his last entry, Sunday, April 11th. Palm sun. Still struggling to get out of dunes and find water. Palm Sun means Palm Sunday. In early August 1960, a British Petroleum Company crew found the remains of another crew member. He was about 2 miles north of where the original search party stopped looking north of the Lady Be Good to focus on following the Italian vehicle tracks. Still dressed in his high-altitude flying suit, a Mae West life jacket, and his parachute harness was the body of Lieutenant John S. Warovka. His parachute was only partially open, so it was clear that he was killed immediately upon impacting the ground. After searching the area, they found a pile of parachute harnesses about a mile south of Warovka's body. This was definitely the place where the 8 other members assembled before heading northwest through the desert. As the men were found, they were given full military funeral honors, and each was covered with a flag before being placed in a coffin and transported back home. Of the 9 crew members, 8 of them were found, and 1 has never been found. Still missing is Staff Sergeant Vernon L. Moore, gunner and assistant radio operator. However, it is believed his remains were found and buried by a British Army Desert Patrol group in 1953, but this has not been verified. Here is a newspaper photo of his parents holding a photo of him. So what happened? On April 4, 1943, 2 sections of bombers began taking off at 1:30 p.m. from the sandy runway in Suluq, Libya. Section A was made up of 12 B-24s, and Section B was made up of 13 B-24s. 25 planes in total lifted off. Lady Be Good was in Section B and the 21st plane to take off. Their mission was a high-level bombing attack on Naples harbor at sunset. Section A lifted off first, stirring up the sand. Section B had to take off through this stirred-up sand, which caused many problems. By 5 p.m., 3 of Section B's 13 bombers had to turn around due to sand-induced mechanical problems. Only 1 bomber from Section A had to turn around shortly after takeoff due to the engine problems it had. Between 6:40 p.m. and 7 p.m., 3 more aircraft in Section B had to turn around because of engine problems. Section B was now down to 7 bombers. Shortly after 7 p.m., a 7th plane had to drop out, and at 7:20 p.m., an 8th plane had to drop out. At 7:25 p.m., a 9th plane had to drop out. Section B was now down to 4 bombers, and Lady Be Good was now leading this small group of 4. About 5 minutes out from the target at 7:45 p.m., when the bombers were at 25,000 feet over Sorrento, the sun had been down for about 15 minutes and the target was almost completely dark. Lieutenant Hatton did not want to miss the target and accidentally drop bombs on innocent civilians, so he turned around and headed back to Suluq. The formation of 4 bombers stayed together until it got dark, and they broke up the formation over La Cosa, Italy, in order to avoid a possible mid-air collision. They all released their bombs over the Mediterranean Sea. The last B-24 landed at Suluq at 11:10 p.m., and the Lady Be Good did not land. At 12:12 a.m., the radio direction finder station in Benina received a call from Lieutenant Hatton asking for an inbound heading. The operator answered back, "Hello 64, hello 64, this is Benina radio direction finder. Your bearing is 330 degrees magnetic from the station. Repeat, bearing is 33 over and out." Lady Be Good acknowledged the message and signed out. Unfortunately, the radio direction finder station could not tell if the aircraft was inbound or outbound. The station could only tell what direction it was going with reference to the station. At 12:12 a.m., a 330-degree heading would suggest he was very possibly over land just south of the station, while the Lady Be Good navigator and crew believed they were still over the water. Unfortunately, the radio direction finder station could not tell if the aircraft was inbound or outbound. The station could only tell what direction it was going. For unknown reasons, Navigator Hayes did not turn on the plane's automatic direction finder at the right time, which would have picked up the beacon at Benina and pointed them in the right direction. This is known because 16 years later, when the Lady Be Good was found, the automatic direction finder was still working properly. It was assumed that they didn't use the automatic direction finder because the crew was confident they knew where they were and they thought they were fighting a headwind. Eventually, the plane ran out of fuel and the crew bailed out through the bomb bay door about 2:10 a.m. and the Lady Be Good landed on its own where it was found November 9, 1958. In 1994, the wreckage of Lady Be Good was taken to Jamal Abdel Nasser Air Force Base in Tobruk, Libya for safekeeping. They also did not want souvenir hunters going to the site, potentially putting themselves at risk in the dangers of the Sahara Desert. There is a memorial for Sergeant Robert E. Lamott in his hometown of Lake Linden, Michigan. A propeller from the Lady Be Good sits on top of this memorial at the corner of 4th Street and Calumet Street. Other parts of Lady Be Good are on display at several museums across America. One of them is March Field Air Museum in Riverside, California. Here is the firing assembly from the rear turret of the Lady Be Good. Here is one of the flags used in the recovery of the crewmen in 1960. So there you have it, a brief story of the Lady Be Good. Right here on the Forrest Haggerty channel.